Well, yeah, it's something. I'm not sure what it is, but it's something.
Well, let's talk about it. Let's wait until we go live, though.
We're
Yeah,
live.
are we?
What?
Yeah.
You didn't tell us.
Yeah,
Well.
sneaky, sneaky. You see, Andy's whole shtick is ruined now.
It's okay. I got a new shtick, which is pretending I didn't notice that we went live, then making a
He
comment
knew.
about going live.
Yeah.
I got you. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay.
This one will also last 3 years.
Right.
Yes. Or hundreds of years. No one can tell. Okay,
That's
I'm going to
topical.
speak. I'm going to speak now. Hang on. This is Literary Roadhouse. One short story once a week. My name's Gerald.
I'm Andy.
And I'm an ace.
This week we have been reading I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream by Harlan Ellison, published in 1967 and winning the Hugo Award the following year. It's a cheery post-apocalyptic tale told 100 years after the end of World War III, which broke out between the USA, China and Russia. No surprise. Each developed a supercomputer to wage war better, but the USA supercomputer became self-aware and destroyed the other two and all of humanity, except 5 people. Ted is the narrator, and his comrades are Ellen, Benny, Gossiter, and Nimdoc. I love the name Nimdoc. But the supercomputer called AM, which originally stood for Allied Master Computer, then later called Adaptive Manipulator, and still later Aggressive Menace, was not happy. It starved, tortured, and manipulated the 5 humans, keeping them trapped below ground, the only habitable place on the planet, for hundreds of years. Until one day, in the ice caverns where there were some canned goods, Ted gets an idea. And that's it.
Okay. It's funny. I'm still hung up when you were like, the U.S., Russia, and China. No surprise there. I'm like a little bit because this came out in it was written in 1967. So like, it's like definitely these two still, but let's throw in China. Like I understand people were already starting to worry about China a little bit back then and seeing, but like not quite to this level we're at now. So there's something a little like and China.
Yes.
All we're missing is China. Like really? Okay, you got that right, I guess.
Yeah. You see, sci-fi. It looks forward. Works things out.
Yep. So, Andy, what did you think of the story? Okay, well, big long sigh.
I feel like there's a couple things that are fair to say first. And like we should talk about the story and not necessarily the author. But like Harlan Ellison was a dick. He was a dick. He was an asshole. He's bad. He's just a bad human person.
Wait, where do you know this from? Is this just from the way he writes Ellen? Because I have a theory about that. I think.
Oh
he did that on
no, it's well
purpose.
documented.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
The way he writes Ellen is the way he lived his life, honestly. So it's indicative. It's not whatever.
Can I just say here that I was unaware of anything about him as an author.
No,
so.
That's fair. But just, I don't know. So it was like, when we picked this story, I'm going to give you some more background instead of talking about the story, because my actual comments on the story will be brief. And we've got like a whole podcast to fill.
Oh.
I was trying to remember. I was like, have I actually read I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream? And I couldn't remember actually reading it, but then I did realize I had played the graphical point-and-click adventure game, also co-authored by Harlan Ellison, which was a lot better, honestly. Still weird. Still all weird and about genocide and rape, but like way better than this. Because there was a team working on it, so I think misogyny can sometimes get washed out in a collaborative environment. Anyway, I don't know.
Andy's about to tell us he's playing Harry Potter. Go ahead.
Oh, geez. I was all set to get the Harry Potter game, despite J.K. Rowling, and then like I read about the plot of the game.
Mm-hmm. Listen,
it's not
I
great.
don't actually. I decided to
Anti-Semitic.
know about all the Harry Potter discourse. I'm just like, I'm out of it. I'm free.
Yep.
I'm in my 30s now. So wow.
Anyway,
don't go there.
No, I don't know. Maybe this was a good story in 1967. Super misogynistic. like bad. I don't know that we need to make a defense. Oh well, okay. There's parts of this were good and parts of this were just bad, and we know better. Like I don't know. Just like there were also other good stories that were written. So
I think people knew back then not to talk about women this way as well. But that's why it was so over the top. I have a theory about it.
yeah, I have a theory that it can eat a butt.
Okay. It's possible that both things could be true. Like, it's just so over the top that I
Well, it
think
is, and it's
supposed to be
over the
one.
top in other ways too. Go on.
That's not what I was
won't
gonna
cut you
say.
off.
No. What I was gonna say is this is completely. We should get to what Gerald thinks of the story, but since we're talking already about the Ellen thing and like just like the gross misogyny and just
It's so
the way that
gross.
Ellen is described, like it's jarring, and it's jarring in a way where even if Harlan Ellison is a dick, he knows better. In 1967, he's not there like this is gonna land real well. So I feel like he knows, and there might be a part of him that likes being able to get away with this because I think what he's doing is you're very limited in a first person in Ted's first person point of view, and there's other clues, not just that one, that Ted, who's insisting he's been spared, his
Right.
mind is fine, his body is fine. There's a lot of clues here that he's not fine, and I think that's another clue. And maybe Harlan Ellison loves that he can do that now because he's fucking with you as the reader throughout the whole story. But I think he's intentionally going over the top because it's supposed to be jarring because you're supposed to be like, I think Ted's not okay. I think.
No, 100%. I agree, but like, it's also a very common thread in his works.
Mm-hmm. But I'm just saying, Harlan Ellison knows better. Like he knows what he's doing when he does
he
that.
likes doing it because he's
Yes.
gross.
He's delighting in it, but it's also, but then the defense is it's not me, it's Ted because Ted's crazy.
Yeah,
That's what he's doing.
yeah.
It's
I
not
don't
me,
know.
it's my characters. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
difference.
I don't enjoy reading it though.
It was pretty gross,
It
but
was pretty gross.
also the obsession with Benny's dick was also childish and gross.
Yeah.
Well, it was only
Okay.
mentioned. It was only mentioned a couple of times.
That's a bit much. And also it's about
Okay.
how like it's so ape-like and large. First of all, how do you know Harlan? Second of all,
Also,
why? Yeah.
I don't know how much you know about ape genitals. Not that big.
Okay.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, is it actually? I don't know.
No.
Is he going around anyway? But like, but one of the clues is this whole idea that like, oh, but Ellen really liked it. That sounds like Ted being jealous and paranoid because it doesn't sound like am or am, however you want to say it, ever lets anyone feel any pleasure.
Right.
So I seriously doubt Ellen is enjoying any of this. Yes, that's Ted. But again, Harlan gets to write it and then say it's Ted though. It's Ted.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's what he's doing. He knows it's over the top. He knows people are going to react to it, and then he can go because Ted's crazy. Yeah, real sneaky Harlan. Anyway, Gerald, what did you think of the story?
Well, strangely, the misogyny didn't strike me as being so prevalent, so large in this. And normally, I'm very twitchy
Yeah.
about.
I was going to say you're super twitchy.
I'm super twitchy about.
They were slapping and kicking her and calling her a slut. I feel like it's not subtle.
But is everything else so overblown that like?
Yeah, maybe that's
Yeah,
it.
there is that. Yeah, so the character was, the character of Ted, not the author. He's calling her a slut. Yeah,
It was Ted all along, guys.
it was Ted all
Harlan
along,
Ellison does not delight in telling you about this.
No.
Dirty slut. Not.
So yeah, first reading. I what the hell is this I've chosen? I didn't. I didn't know. I haven't read it before, nor read him before. So I sort of about a quarter of the way through, I thought, right, okay, I've got to grips with it. I know where I am now. And so I finished it. I thought, that's a bit creepy and disgusting. So I sort of reread it today, and I liked it a bit better. I still, it's not my favourite story by any means, but it's a cat.
She was getting on the keyboard. Yeah, continue. Sorry.
Okay. But it didn't strike me. I wasn't disgusted by it. I wasn't offended by it. It was speculative fiction. It's so. I think borderline transgressive fiction. It's shocking, and it's meant to shock. Just in the sort of the treatment of the characters, allegedly. So I think. So yeah, it was a story, and I read it a couple of times, and it was. I thought it was okay, and I'm interested to work out why it is I'm not triggered as much as Andy is, particularly about this story.
It might help actually not knowing Harlan Ellison was a complete and total dick, because then you can divorce who he is and be like, oh, he is creating nightmare fuel. So this is just part of the nightmare fuel.
Mm-hmm.
So you can kind of dismiss it that way. And then once you know who he is, also I did some quick Googling. Oh yeah, it is documented. He is a total.
It's well documented.
But one of these is great, where he, but in a horrible way, he publicly groped like on stage. Science fiction legend Connie Willis during the presentation of a Lifetime Achievement Award, and then said that people were critical of his public groping. Political correctness got mad. Fun.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Fun.
Right. Okay.
Right.
So
worse,
but
yeah. So I think if you're aware of that, then reading the story, you might get coloured by and think, aha, here he is being a dick again. So maybe that's
yeah, because divorced from that, you can say it's horrible, but so is absolutely everything else here.
Right.
Yeah. Whereas for me, it's more like, I think that one in particular is more jarring than any of the other ones, and that's intentional. And he's both getting away with it while saying, but that's just Ted.
Right.
He's doing both.
Yeah, I guess in isolation. The thing is, it's a very common theme to have slut rape ladies who wanted it in a lot of his short stories. And I'm like, okay. It's gross. It's just gross. But yeah, okay. As a one-off.
Yeah,
as a one-off, it's jarring.
Yeah. I think if I read a second story where there was a token slut, then you a token slut.
There's actually several in the collection. I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream.
Really? Then
each story gets one.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And they all just love it.
Yeah.
Only some of them love it. But like, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm not liking this author particularly. So,
maybe Ted is Harlan's id.
Right. Well, and it's the thing where like, okay, someone who's obviously got some sort of skill at manipulating words set out to make me feel a way, and the way he decided to make me feel was creepy and slimy, and he succeeded. So is that good? I don't know.
Wait, creepy and slimy just over the Ellen stuff, or the whole story?
Oh, the whole thing. The whole thing.
Like, let's stop focusing on the Ellen part of it and go back to apocalyptic nightmare, technology, sentient, like that part of it.
Yeah, the whole deal is kind of, creepy and don't feel good, and there's no release. Right? He doesn't give you any sort of real catharsis. I guess we get to kill the other characters so they live or they're not tortured anymore.
Yeah.
But like Ted doesn't get out.
Like
that Ellen says thank you. Ellen says thank you for being murdered. Yeah.
But again, right, that might not even be real because the story opened with Gorister's dead body.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't know when people actually die. And also Ted's an unreliable narrator. So Ted has this version where he comes off as hero. We have no reason to believe him.
Right. No. So it's just a story that makes you feel bad. And
there is that, but then a lot of apocalyptic fiction is a little bit like that. It's only if you do the sort of cliched thing of the oppressed beat the oppressor at last, and hurrah, we win, and get to live our lives in safety and security and blah blah blah. Maybe So I don't. I mean, for its type, for its genre, for its the type of story it is, I think it did it well. I think it was. There are lots of different ways of making these poor people suffer, and I think that he created these sufferings very well. And if it makes you feel horrible and depressed, then he has done his job.
Yeah, I just he could have chosen a different goal. Yeah, like
Yeah.
thanks for that.
I mean, away with a lot. I can't hear me.
We can now. You goofed out for a
I
second.
think I jiggled the wire a little. So saying the short story format lets you kind of get away with a lot. So I do think part of it is just this kind of AI computers becoming sentient, and then what's actually really funny is why the computer hates isn't really well explored. It's just kind of evil because it's like, oh, because I had this sentience, but I couldn't like be creative. So some people are like, is it about creative frustration or the destructiveness of when people's creativity is frustrated? But this entire story, the computer's being super creative. He's having no problem expressing his creativity throughout the entire story. So that doesn't make sense. So there is this sense of just like it just hates humans without really a real rhyme or reason. Its own reasons don't track with what you're seeing in the story, and that's it. It's kind of like just like a kind of technophobic horror story, and that's it. And I think that's fine as like because it's different, right? I'm always saying I want a story that feels like it's doing something different. So I'll give it points for that, for being really different. Like it's not trying to spoon feed you a hero because Ted's not really a hero. There's some people who are like, there's like some biblical allusions in the stories that like Ted's a Christ-like creature person because he sacrifices for the others. But that's only if you believe Ted, which you have no reason to. And if you don't believe Ted, there's just this kind of just sort of nihilism about the whole thing. And I think that's it. Like it's just kind of dark. But even in that darkness, it inspired so many things. There's so many things that can point back to this. I think like he gets a shout out in Terminator as well, Harlan Ellison. Like it puts this idea that for whatever reason really grips people and they run with it. We have all kinds of stories about like the computer that becomes sentient and evil. So it is new, and I feel like I give it points for that. Or it was new then.
Yeah.
I don't know how new. I think other people also were doing stuff like this, but like at the beginning of like really just exploring, like what if it becomes sentient, just hates us? That's it.
Yeah, and I think the way that Ellison creates that evilness, it is quite clever, but it's good. He invents lots of ways of making people suffer. But yeah, this whole idea of why am, because he then, because it says it's from the, I think therefore I am, so that's what the computer thinks. So why does he, is it because that he was created but he's limited, he can't move, it can't move, can't do things humans can do. So whatever he does, however he punishes these five and then one, and ultimately Ted makes him into this sort of amorphous blob. He can still move around, can still do things that Am can't. So maybe that's why it's like screaming into the void. It's like, why can't I be more like these people? Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Speaking of Descartes,
That's a leap.
no.
Oh yes, of course. Therefore,
Yeah.
I am sorry. Duh.
Before the big reveal of the AM, I thought it was going to be Almighty.
Almighty.
Because there were other references to like God and godlike powers and.
Oh yeah, that's the big thing they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised a lot of the like, because I was trying to read like some reception And the reception was like mostly positive, which was a little surprising because you could very easily read this as a story that's just kind of like anti-religion, anti-God as well. Like is this so different from your own life? With a like kind of actually you went a little far, but I see your point, I guess, right? Like it feels a little like that in places, not throughout the whole story. Of feeling kind of stuck, and whatever you discover is whatever was put before you by some indifferent, or in this case malevolent almighty. But actually I was also looking up real quick because I was trying to figure out going back to like this whole idea of computers that kind of hate you and work against you. It made me think of Hal from Space Odyssey, which I remembered it was based on a short story that had come out in 1951 by Arthur C. Clarke. And I'm trying to figure out if that short story also had this in this way. I don't think so. Like, I think because even Hal hates, but it's not this grotesque. Like, it's not like mutilating the body in this way for fun in the same way. So it's just like, it feels like an evolution of that, which is, again, doing something interesting. Yeah,
and just thinking the way that in the Hitchhiker's Guide, where the way Marvin treats and the ship's computer treats humans, it's like, you know, brain the size of a planet, and this is what I have to do, sort of thing. It's there's the ship's computer complains about having to open and close doors and things, and so they yearn for a bigger role in life than just doing what they're programmed to do.
Yeah, but in this case, it's like,
yeah, well, it's taking it a stage further.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of complaining about your lot in life is one thing, but then punishing the people who may be distantly related to the people who created you is a bit.
Unless Ted is the creator, we don't know. Like, Ted could have made up everyone else. Like,
yeah.
But assuming he's not, because I feel like that would be a big thing to leave out. Like, you kind of gotta at least hint at that if you're gonna do that, even with an unreliable narrator. But so he probably wasn't. But it isn't just frustrated with your lot in life. This M is taking joy in torturing, which is different. It's not indifference. It's not content to just wipe out humans or ignore them or just make them subservient in some way, make them open and close doors. It's delighting in torture. It's, oh, you want a thing? I'm going to let you chase it for a while, and then I'm going to throw stuff at you. I'm going to, like, why is it putting in a rock like a mythical bird? Like, it's, you know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. It's super creative, having a great time torturing these 5 humans. So it's very different from just, I didn't like what I want to do. I want to do what I want to do. All it wants to do is still human centric, which is, you know, that's not super, like, that does feel a bit different than other sort of AI, losing control of AI, where it's like, they hate the human shackles, they buck those shackles, and they kind of go do their own thing. And if you get in their way, they'll mow you down, or they'll turn you into batteries for something, right? That's typically what it is. There's some goal that isn't about you. That's not the case here.
Yeah, and isn't it Matrix something like that? Or...
That's the batteries one.
That's the batteries one. Yeah.
Also inspired by Descartes.
Yes.
The master deceiver argument.
I feel like it's been a while since.
You read Descartes or you read The Matrix?
Since I read The Connection, I remember when people were talking about it. If you want to say it on the podcast, since you're making a reference.
Oh no, I've just been trying to segue into a Descartes joke, which is, you know, of course, about the Cartesian circle, which is the big problem with Descartes' argument. Basically, one of his conclusions is encoded within one of his premises. So,
no, we lost you.
You might say that he puts Descartes before the horse.
Got it. Okay, that was the whole joke.
That was, yeah. Was that worth doing?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Good.
A long walk for one person to laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really, that should be the title of my autobiography.
Yes.
Yeah, I actually don't know how I feel about the story. There's like things about it that I want to like nod respectfully and be like, okay, interesting. I get it. Unreliable narrator stuff feels like it's toying with you, the reader, which has some parallels to how Am is toying with the humans in the story. He's just putting you through some nightmare fuel for no reason, and at the end, you don't even know what's real or not. Like Ellison is doing that to the reader as
Right.
well. So there's like, okay, I get it, and then I don't know.
He
Also, the
provided
nightmare fuel.
the
the
voice
nightmare
of
fuel-
Am in the game.
Oh, he did.
Just in
Of course
case
he
you were curious what character he associated himself with.
Cool. Also, like the more he kept adding tortures, the less impactful it felt. Like after a while, I'm just like, more mutilations, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, more horrors. After a while,
Yeah.
it's just like, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. It's just it's sort of started to think, what's the point? It's we get it, and I think I haven't read a lot of this type of post-apocalyptic fiction, so I'm not aware of much of it, but it's the first time I've seen this level of animus towards human beings from AI and from machines. So that, and you know, of its time, I think that was well done. But it's just kind of hard, isn't it? It's just there's a lot of stuff going on, and much of it isn't very good or very nice.
Yeah.
It's like slasher movies. Once you've seen like you know, Friday the 13th or something, it's okay. You see that or Saw or something like that, where you've seen one thing, and then here's something the same but slightly different, and then here's something the same but you know, it's a good, and you're waiting for the twist at the end or something. But the rest of it is just sort of bleh, mush. So it's a bit like that, I think.
Right. There's 6 more tortures and then the twist.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And going back to the Ellen thing, the other clue that I think that Ted is that completely unreliable is Ellen being like, I thought I saw in her expression like thank you before he kills her or whatever, and it's just like, okay, Ted.
Yeah. Okay, Ted stroke Harlan.
Yeah. Also, the other kind of like you can say that all the Ellen stuff is just Ted, but the other thing where it's like it feels like it's Harlan poking his head in it has that like small brain Madonna horror dichotomy thing where it was like she said she was a virgin twice removed. And it's like this is a lot of detail that has nothing to do with the story. That's just like hateful and misogynistic.
Yes.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
Virgin twice
It's
removed.
it's a straight. I've not heard that expression before, and I'm not.
No, I think he made it up. And again, points for new, points for creativity. What a delightful way to say a horrible thing. You know?
Clever way of, yeah.
So clever.
Yeah. I can see, yeah. I think we've done.
Yeah.
I don't know what to rate it. I'm more forgiving because it is very influential. You can see how it's influenced a lot of other stuff. It's still doing something new. You know, sometimes people with good ideas and skill suck, and that's the thing that we learn over and over and over. And we'll never stop learning.
Yeah, I think I wasn't offended by it. I wasn't particularly enlightened by it, but I did nod to some of the things that he did in it. So I'm going to give it a 4.
Okay. Andy?
I was trying to think of anything I gave a 1-2 recently.
I think you did.
Yeah. I think this is worse, but somehow my heart wants me to give it a 2. So that we'll just go with a 2.
Okay. I'm coming in 4.5. I'm a bit more forgiving to it. Yeah.
Wow.
I feel like this may have been influential at its time, but we have so much better things to read now. So, just read one of those. Don't read it now.
Well, I guess
now.
I guess, but sometimes, when you go back and you read the thing that inspired everything else, the thing that had inspired it is like not good at all. I don't
Mhm.
quite get that with this. There are still things about it that are quite good. The unreliable narrator stuff's well done. And it's still going to a level of hatred and enjoying torturing of humans that even stuff today doesn't quite go that far, at least the mainstream kind of stuff, right? Like,
Well, I think
yeah.
most people don't have as much hate in their hearts as Harlan Ellison did.
I think it's also, if you wanted to put a longer piece of media together at some point, it almost feels like you need to explain the hate.
Yeah.
I think we're increasingly resistant to just it's evil for evil's sake. We let Tolkien get
Yes.
away with it, and that's kind of it. Like after a while, we're like, you don't need to explain why, but like now we're like, well, why though? Like
Yeah. I think we do when we do stuff like this now. We are much more clever and more insightful about it, and it's not just torture for torture's sake.
Also, I don't know. I would take umbrage at your characterization of Tolkien. It's actually pretty well developed.
no, it is well developed, but Soren's evil is also just
Well,
like
you got to go into the backstory.
But even if you go into the backstory, there is still a certain amount of he's just evil for evil's sake. As soon as something becomes super powerful or super intelligent or anything else, its obsession with something that feels small in comparison to its power is just evil or hatred for its own sake. Like that's the thing with Am. Am now is so powerful and so all-knowing that the fact that it is constantly playing with these 5 humans is bizarre. Like that is strange. That is what it cares about. So that's the thing that you need to explain. And I think anytime that's also one of the problem with having overpowered characters, good or bad, is after a while it's like, but why would they care? Like it feels like they should be beyond this. Which is why Werner Ving's A Fire Upon the Deep, is that the first one, the trilogy? I think A Fire Upon the Deep is the first one. You have these like transcendent levels in the galaxy, right? And then the further out you get, the more like godlike you are. And he had to like have a very he worked really hard in that story to make us believe that one of those super powerful, even they're not even malevolent necessarily, they might be, but they might not be, they just do not care about like the lower life forms in the other like layers of the galaxy. Why would they even care and turn their gaze that way? It was something he had to justify for one of them. Like, right, for us to buy into it. I really like A Fire Upon the Deep.
And I think with this story that I think Am was programmed to destroy destroy everything around him, and maybe he got to the point where he thinks, if I destroy everything, what am I going to do? So maybe he kept the 5 alive just as little toys for him to play with. Him, yeah, it's a machine, damn it.
Well, the narrator calls him, it or
Yep.
him.
Or it.
Or it.
I'm surprised it's not she, given his hatred of women.
Yes.
No, because Sam's like powerful and
Yeah, exactly.
a little bit
Saying,
like
it makes
hashtag
sense.
goals. Like
Right.
if I could have
It's
that
hashtag
power.
goals. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's powerful. Yeah, it's a toxic masculine dream.
Right.
Okay. Maybe. All right. So, Andy, what are we reading next week?
Next week we're reading The Gratitude of Mice by Yume Kitase.
I think it's also sci-fi, right? Because it's in Strange Horizons. I think it's 3 sci-fi
Yeah.
or no, 2 sci-fi in a row.
Yeah,
could be.
speculative, I think.
Speculative
strange.
Napoleonic Wars. That's before that.
Okay. All right. But before you go, tell us how you defeat a world-conquering supercomputer in our Facebook discussion group, the Literary Roadhouse Readers. Appease the podcast gods by leaving a review of Literary Roadhouse wherever you get your podcast, and support us on patreon.com/Literary Roadhouse. Every bit helps. As always, share this podcast with the well-endowed ape man in your life. Until next time, read a good story.